today's football analyst. We have a different format. We are here to talk about Premier League with Jack Maxcott. Jack, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Nicholas. Nice to be here.
Jack is an avid Newcastle United supporter, but we'll go through all the matches and talk about what's going on in the Premier League. We plan to do this English podcast once a month, and let's have a look at the results first. Last weekend we didn't have any matches in the Premier League due to the international break. The results were Chelsea, Crystal Palace 4-0, Everton, Brighton 4-2, Leeds United, Man City 1-1, Arsenal, Sheffield 2-1. Manchester United, Tottenham 1-6, Aston Villa, Liverpool 7-2, Newcastle, Burnley 3-1, Leicester City, West Ham 0-3, Southampton, West Brom 2-0, and Wolves, Fulham 1-0. So some interesting results, Jack.
Absolutely, yeah. There was so many goals last time out before the international break. Manchester United conceding 6 at Old Trafford. I mean, that's their joint record worst defeat ever at Old Trafford.
Thanks for reminding me.
Sorry for reminding you. And do you remember the other one when you lost 6-1 to your neighbours, Man City?
Yes, Man City. Yes.
So that was a bad day as well. And then
but it was a different circumstances. This one, I mean, United haven't started well, and there's a lot of arrest, let's say, within the fans, the fan base, and but okay, we'll see.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, Manchester United have had a sloppy start to the season. Didn't they lose to Crystal Palace at home as well, which was another bad defeat, really.
But even the Brighton win, I mean, Brighton hit the post 5 times, and then United won with the help of the VAR after the final whistle went. So
it's crazy how that happened as well. What are your thoughts about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? Do you have faith in him, or do you think he should go?
Listen, I mean, since Sir Alex retired, it's just you are wondering what is going on. Is the structure? They keep talking about the director of football. Who is making the decisions? There are some supporters accusing the Glazers that take a lot of money out of the club. Of course, this year the transfer window was a bit strange to say, in the sense that with COVID and the reduction in the income of all the clubs, they've been a bit cautious. But of course, we're talking about a club that has a £1 billion turnover, and it needs strengthening in some areas, definitely. So I'm not one to say, okay, sack the manager, because it didn't have any effect so far. There are some really good managers, and when they joined United, something happened, and you see a completely different picture. I mean, Mourinho is not a good manager. Van Gaal is not a good manager. So they thought they would try to with Solskjaer. He brought back some coaches like Phelan in the team. Also, he has the U19 manager, which is like a link between, it looks like, between the academy and the first team. They look like they have the coaching staff, they have the right setup. I'm just questioning their transfer policy and how they think they are going to bridge the gap between United and Man City and Liverpool.
Well, I'm struggling to see why it's gone so wrong at the start of this season, because remember last season, towards the end, obviously we had the UK lockdown, and then the football came back with no fans behind closed doors, and Manchester United were winning almost every game, and they stormed through the season, and they ended up being in the Champions League positions. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer looked like the man to lead United back into the top four, but also into maybe title contention. And then it's just suddenly gone wrong in this start of the season. Do you think it's because of the lack of transfers? You know, that
No. Fernandes and Pogba didn't play together at the end of last year, if you remember. So you cannot have too many players not defending. As in modern football, have 11 defenders and 11 attackers. So it looks like there's something that is not working in the middle of the park. This is my opinion. Of course, we had the Maguire, saga through the summer. And it keeps going on. And,
not too far from Cyprus, really, as it turns out, was it?
Yeah, so it looks like he's affected, and also everybody's accusing the defenders and the hair, but at the same time, you need to look at, they are exposed because something is not going correctly, it's going right in the middle of the park. This is my opinion.
But it just seems to be more of the pressures on, or the fans seem to be venting their frustration with the back four and also the goalkeeper. So do you think they need to maybe put Dean Henderson in, because he did so well last season on loan at Sheffield United?
There's been a lot of discussion about it, Jack, but look, okay, if a goalkeeper keeps making amazing, saves, all right, in my opinion, something is not working properly, because if the defenders are probably defending, the midfielders are probably defending, even Martial is defending, okay, then your goalkeeper in most of the matches virtually has nothing to do. So if you have the pressure and you're relying on your goalkeeper, then there's something wrong.
That's a good point. Yeah, he shouldn't be having to make saves, because obviously the famous teams of years gone by hardly ever made a save, and when they did have to, they were there. The problem with De Gea is his confidence is definitely gone, because even 2 days ago he was playing for his country, for Spain, and he conceded a really bad goal. He was out of position. Maybe you need to change it up to bring confidence, because a good goalkeeper, a confident goalkeeper, brings confidence to the back four, and it might give Maguire the confidence, it might give Bailly the confidence to actually perform a bit better, and knowing that they've got that security protection behind them.
I understand what you're saying, but there is another school of thought that says if you keep playing, a player who lost his confidence, then at some point he's going to come back. But it's been quite some months now, so they need to look into it, in my opinion.
Well, no doubt he's a top-class keeper, we know that. But also left-back's been a problem. Luke Shaw, there's always been problems, criticisms about his weight. He's been up and down. He looks a bit trimmer, a bit fitter this season, but I don't think Ollie has 100% faith in him, because they've just signed that FC Porto left-back, Teles, the Brazilian left-back. So maybe he might slot straight in and might improve the back four straight away.
Luke Shaw is an attacking-minded. He's like a wing-back. He's more like a wing-back than a defender. So he needs to combine both the defense part of his game and the attacking part. This year, he hasn't started really well, to be honest with you. So he's not here or there. So that's a big problem again.
That was a big problem during the Tottenham game, because they were always using that right-hand side, and they could just see the weakness. And obviously the Manchester United teams of the past under Ferguson, there wasn't really a weakness. You had Patrice Evra at left back for a long time. Even before that, you had Gary Neville at right back. You had a solid team that you could depend on, that you knew the back four or even five of Manchester United at times, you knew they were solid.
Apart from that, in the Ferguson era, most of the Premier League teams were really scared to play against Man United at Old Trafford. So it's not like that anymore. So you could see even, the lower tier teams that are struggling down the bottom of the table, that they feel they can get a result at Old Trafford. So it's something that needs to change. I don't know how it's going to change. Of course, we have the example of Klopp. It took him 3 years to start competing for the championship, and it took him, I think, almost 5 years to win the league, the Premier League. So, in my opinion, it's too early to judge Solskjaer. I know a lot of fans, they like him because of his history as a player, but he needs at least another 2 or 3 transfer windows in order to properly judge his work.
All right, so just going on some of the signings, what do you think to the new midfielder Donny van der Beek? £40 million. I saw him for Ajax when he played in Cyprus last year for the qualifier. He was a good player. Do you think he's going to improve? Do you think who's going to leave? Who's going to leave the team for him to be replacing? Is it Pogba? Are you going to take him out? Are you going to maybe take somebody else out?
McTominay.
You're going to take Scott McTominay out?
Yeah, probably, because he's more defensive-minded player. Of course, again, coming from a different type of league to the Premier League is not easy. Everybody knows that. The pace is different, more physical, so he needs time to adapt to the English way of playing.
So do you think I think from what you said there, you think it's too early to panic with Manchester United? It's only been 3 games of the season.
Yeah, definitely.
It's work in progress.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, okay, everybody knows that they're not going for the championship. But it's very important for Man United to finish in the top 4 and qualify again for the Champions League. So, but it's too early to say.
It needs to be Manchester United back up number 1, doesn't it, really? Because imagine under, say, Ferguson or any of the other managers before that, saying Manchester United are happy to finish in the top 4. Imagine Roy Keane's reaction to hearing that. They would not be happy about that, would they?
And I'm not happy either. I'm not happy. If you start the season and say that my goal is to finish the top 4, okay, so we might end up 6th, because you need to raise the bar, right? The last few years, I keep saying this, we're going for top 4, and then we see it's development, it's a progress, you need to make a progress. But in my opinion, you should say, okay, we are ready. The target is to win the league, and then if you finish 3rd or 4th, that's it. I mean, it's okay. You're not playing on your own. There are another 19 teams in the Premier League. So
looking ahead to the weekend, then obviously Manchester United have got Newcastle, my team.
Yeah, your team. Yes.
Newcastle. So it's been a bit of a mixed start for Newcastle, I think, this season. As a fan, I think it was disappointing. It was disappointing before it even started, because we were all expecting the takeover to happen with the Saudi consortium. We were going to be richer than Manchester City. We were going to have all this money. We were linked with all the top players, and it was getting really exciting. Some of the players they were sort of sniffing around to sign. It didn't happen, and now we're stuck in with Steve Bruce. We were hoping maybe we could get Pochettino in as the manager. All these big names were being thrown in to the mix in the rumour mill. I like Steve Bruce as a man. He's a good guy by all means. He's a very experienced football manager. He is actually as successful as Benitez has been. There's been a lot of comparisons between him and Benitez, but I think he's done as good a job, if not better, with the resources he's had. But he doesn't play a style of play that's really attractive. You were talking off camera about Newcastle in the 90s when they played exciting brand of football under the Keegan era, things like that. Losing 4-3 rather than going for a 1-0 victory. It can be more entertaining. But Steve Bruce's sides are a bit more direct. I remember when he was the manager of Hull, when he was at Sunderland, all of these styles of play were not that attractive as a package to watch. And especially when the fans are watching from home now, they get all the angles, they can see where the play is sort of breaking down, and they're not getting into the final third as quick as I'd like as a fan. And it's not exciting to watch anymore as it used to be in the past. But saying that, they did beat West Ham 2-0 away, which was a good win on the first game of the season. A disappointing loss to Brighton, which really disappointing. I watched that game live, and it was not really good at all. There wasn't one shot on target from Newcastle at home, which is absolutely shocking, really. They got a last-minute goal again with VAR, a bit like Manchester United at Brighton, away at Spurs. They didn't deserve a point there. And then last time out, we beat Burnley at 3-1. So it's been a mixed start because we made some good signings in the summer. I don't know if you've kept a track of that, but I thought Callum Wilson was a really good signing for only 20 million. In today's money, that's really good value for a player. I think he's 28, so he's at the peak. He's at the peak, really, peak age to continue his goal scoring. I know he went down with Bournemouth last season, as did Ryan Fraser, the other signing. But there are a couple of good signings that are exciting to watch. Someone like that, he was being linked with Spurs, with Arsenal a few years ago, and now Newcastle have got him. It might be the right move, and he might be able to get back into the England squad, maybe potentially ahead of next year's European Championships.
The problem with Newcastle, Jack, is that the last few years, we have all this talk about the owners. They want to sell the club. This summer was supposed to be closed. I don't know what happened, and this creates uncertainty in and it goes down to the team and the squad. If you have a management with the vision and the plan, so it goes down again throughout the structure. But you're just wondering. It's a big club. Up in North, it's a big club. The fans are really passionate. I've been to Newcastle once, but it's a difficult job Steve Bruce is having right now. So, but as you said, it's early days, so we'll see what's going to happen.
Well, see, we can't, as fans, we can't get too carried away, can we? I know we do, and you see it on social media, and people saying, sack the manager, sack this, players, get him out, put him on the bench, things like that. We've only played 3 or 4 games this season, so it's too early to judge the new teams.
But back in the day, because I'm a bit older than you, a few years older than you, it was unheard of to sack the manager in the middle of the season. There was not so much pressure by the fans. But now, with the explosion of the social media, the fans, they get so much information every day or misinformation. So it's not easy, and definitely is not easy job to be a manager of a football club.
Oh, I agree with that. Looking ahead to the game, what are your thoughts? So it's Newcastle, Manchester United. So it's at St James's Park. Difficult game for Man United, I think, because Newcastle did play quite well against Burnley, and they've had a bit of break. Not as many players on international duty as Man United. So, what are your thoughts? Do you think Man United?
Is it going to be windy, raining up there?
It does depend. I mean, the good thing about the stadium is it's so quite high, it's quite big, and especially the Leazes End. So it doesn't get breezy as much as you'd think, but it can be a bit of a cavernous atmosphere. It's a big stadium to be empty, and obviously, I think it more of an advantage to Man United at the moment because there's no fans in there. 52,000 Geordies screaming for their team.
After the international break, not just now, but after the international break, you don't know how the teams react because they had some days off. I'm talking about football matches, not days off, because they are training, and you have international players now with these big clubs everywhere, going to their countries or playing for their countries. So I cannot really say.
It's hard to tell, isn't it? Because the team haven't been able to work on set pieces. They haven't been able to work on other drills, maybe even keeping a defensive shape, which is what Man United have struggled with.
And they are playing on Saturday.
Yeah.
Right. So
they're playing on Saturday, yeah.
So the coaches are going to have only a couple of days to work with the players.
Well, also they have to keep a track of the players, not just the injuries, but also the way they played, because Harry Maguire got sent off for England, and he, by all means, had a sort of a shocker for England last night on Wednesday night against Denmark in that game there at Wembley. So does he go back into the team, or do you think because his confidence is completely gone, it appears, he's not even performing well for his country and Manchester United?
He's the club captain, so it's not easy for any manager to say, okay, just sit on the bench. In my opinion, Solskjaer should have done this at the start of the season. Give him a couple of matches, rest. It's strange to say to rest a player at the beginning of the season, but because of what happened and probably his mind is somewhere else, there was so much social media and the media in general, the scrutiny of the media. So as an athlete, you need to be at your top form, and also to not to think about anything else. He was convicted in Greece. I don't know about exactly what was the conviction, but he was convicted in Greece. So it's been a strange period for him. So they should have protected him, not now, because if you take him now out of the squad, okay, when are you going to put him back in? It's not an easy decision. That's why I said it was much easier if Solskjaer and the coaches say, okay, Harry, you just take a break, and then when you are ready, physically and mentally, you come back into the squad.
Yes, and it wasn't ideal, was it, as the captain of Manchester United, having all that stuff going on in the background? It was a really unfortunate start. I mean, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it wasn't his fault, was it? He's probably saw the news and thought, my goodness, what am I going to do with this? How are we going to handle it? How are we going to handle the player? And unfortunately,
if you remember, they only had a 2 weeks break.
Yes, and maybe they didn't handle it the right way.
Yeah, so it's maybe it's the reason why United hasn't started well. So it's not. We're talking about human beings. Sometimes we forget that. Okay, they get paid a lot of money, but they're human beings. They're not machines. You just press the button and you perform at your best.
Yes, exactly.
So. Okay, we had another strange result, Aston Villa, Liverpool. It was really strange. The only thing you can say, it was a bad day in the office for Liverpool.
It was a very bad day in the office, and actually it made the day a little bit better for Man United fans, because obviously you were suffering from that defeat against Spurs, and then a lot of the fans were then tuning into the game later on, because the Villa-Liverpool game was later on in the same day, and they would have been sort of rubbing their eyes, thinking, "What are we seeing here?" I mean, so many goals flying in. I couldn't believe it. I watched the game myself, and the goals were just, well, if you took your eye off the game for about 5 minutes, there was another goal, and to Aston Villa usually. The only Liverpool player who could come out of the game with any credit was Mo Salah, because he scored 2 goals and he looked quite sharp in and around the box. But apart from that, Liverpool did miss their goalkeeper. We were talking about goalkeepers with De Gea. They're missing Alisson. They had the reserve choice goalkeeper in there, Adrian. And, I mean, he wasn't brilliant, but across the board, the team were just really poor. 7-2 against Aston Villa. Remember, Aston Villa only just stayed up last season.
It was Klopp's biggest defeat in his career.
Yeah, and he was as shell-shocked as everybody else. Dean Smith, the Aston Villa manager, told the TV cameras after the game in his interview, he said, Klopp said to me, wow, just wow. And he said, to get Klopp to say that to me, it just shows you how well we played as Aston Villa, because nobody could have predicted that result.
But in the Premier League, you have to be at your top of your game every match. So if you have an off day, right, then the other team is going to punish you. You cannot hide away. It's not like some other leagues where maybe you don't play so well and you might get the result. If you have an off day, then we might see this kind of result. Not 7-2, maybe 3-2, 4-2, but 7-2. It was really amazing.
But what is interesting is you look at that result and also go back a few more games when Man City lost to Leicester. That wasn't expected either. So you've got Liverpool, Man United, Man City, even Chelsea dropping points.
Yeah, I agree with you. But it's going to be a strange season.
It's very open, isn't
because of the COVID-19. And also because there are no fans in the football grounds, is really strange for the footballers. Without fans, it's like playing a friendly match in the park. So it's it's okay. As we say, without fans, there is no football.
Exactly, and I think that's highlighted it. And I think you told me earlier that you've heard that football fans may not be able to return to the stadiums until March next year.
There are some rumors. Okay, now the virus is spreading. There's a talk of complete lockdown again. I don't know. There's some towns are more affected than others. You can imagine, if the virus keeps spreading in such a way, how are they going to allow even 30% back to the football grounds? I mean, we have it here in Cyprus, and it looks like we're not going to have it any longer in the next few days.
Yes.
But even with 30%, believe me, a big stadium looks empty. It's not the same. So, okay, let's hope we're going to have the vaccine very soon, and we're going to get back to normal sometime in 2021.
Yes.
Going back to what you said about Leicester started really well, but they lost against West Ham at home 3-0. So another strange result.
That's another strange result. And Leicester are usually very good at home. And of course, last season they were brilliant until the last 10 games or so, and then they lost that final game against Man United. It was almost like a shootout match for the Champions League, and they lost to Man United. So Man United went into the top four. Leicester stayed out of the top four. But to lose at home to West Ham, who they've had a mixed start. Obviously, they lost to Newcastle on the first game of the season, which I was obviously very pleased about. Since then, they've been quite impressive as well. David Moyes has turned it around, really, in charge there. So it's just a really strange Premier League. You can't predict any of the results, as we've seen with some of the crazy scorelines we see on that sheet up there.
And also Brendan Rodgers, with Brendan Rodgers, that his teams are really organized. They don't lose their shape. So it is, and playing at home, I agree with you, it is very difficult to beat them. So it was a really strange result and a good result for West Ham, because David Moyes, if you remember, he was under a lot of pressure recently. So it's good for him. Southampton, West Brom, 2-0. It's okay with Southampton. You know what to expect in the last few years. And Wolves, Fulham, 1-0. I think it's just a result that you could always expect a result like this.
It was expected. Fulham,
yes.
Towards the end of the game, Fulham were putting on a lot of pressure on Wolves, which was again surprising because Fulham haven't been too good this season and they concede too many goals. But Wolves just managed to sort of hold on to the 1-0 win. And with Southampton, they've got the edge on teams like West Brom and other teams in the mid-table because they've got one of the best strikers in the Premier League at the moment, and from last season, Danny Ings, and he performed really well for England a couple of games ago as well during the international break. When you've got a top quality striker, as we've seen with any of the teams in Europe or in the Premier League, you've got a chance. If you've got somebody who can put the ball in the back of the net, a bit like when Newcastle signed Callum Wilson. He's already got 4 goals this season. You need somebody to put the ball in the net, and you've got a chance.
Yeah, definitely. And with Wolves, the last few years, they showed what they can do. A really good side, home and away. Okay, let's look at the other results. Now let's go to the table. Even though it's early days, it shows a pattern. Like Everton, they started really well with Ancelotti. They're flying, and also this weekend we have the derby.
What a game that is! Everton against Liverpool, a massive game, because Everton go into it as the leaders in the table, and they've been really good. I've seen I think I've seen 3 out of the 4 Everton games, and they've been really entertaining. They made some really good signings. James Rodriguez, what a player! I mean, he's still only, I think he's 29, or might be slightly older, but he's doing really well. And that was a coup. And Ancelotti is a top manager. He's won titles, he's won Champions Leagues, and for Everton to have him as the manager is really that was a good deal to get him in. And they've signed some really good players. They signed Doucouré from Watford, Alan from Napoli. They've got some good players in there, real good mix of players, a bit of experience in there as well. And having said that, with Liverpool losing, against Aston Villa last time out, some would say Everton might be the favourites going into that game. So
I'm not so sure, but coming back from the defeat, I'm sure it was something that the Liverpool team, they will look forward to the game. Of course, they always look forward to a local derby, and there's a local pride. So, as you said, it's going to be an exciting game.
Definitely, yeah.
We spoke about Aston Villa, the second place, Leicester. How about Arsenal? Because they're trying, it's a new project now with Arteta, and they managed to keep Aubameyang.
That was possibly one of the signings of the summer, just keeping Aubameyang, because what a player he is. And he sort of puts Arsenal another level. He has the potential. They're in 4th, obviously it's early days already, but he's got the potential to put them in the top 4, on his own, because he's such a good player. They spent a lot of money. They got Nicolas Pepe. He's a bit hit and miss. When he's on form, he's very, very good. But what I like about Mikel Arteta is he's got the philosophy. He's got the similar philosophy to Pep, because he worked with Pep Guardiola at Man City, and he plays a really nice attacking style of play. Not too different from Arsene Wenger, really, in the past. And it definitely is an improvement on Unai Emery, the former manager. I like Arsenal. I like watching them play. I think they're entertaining. Just give the ball to Aubameyang, because he is real quality in front of goal. I think they've got the potential to make the top 4 this season, definitely.
They do play a style of football that a lot of fans around the world like. It's just that the last few years they've been hit and miss in the defensive part. And they were losing a lot of matches because of that. So, as I said, it's a new project, and we'll see how it pans out.
Definitely.
We spoke a little bit about Tottenham. In my opinion, might be the surprise of the season, it looks like Mourinho might turn it around, and really, because of his experience, challenge for if they manage to keep all their players.
Of course, that's been a problem for Spurs, hasn't it, over the years? But remember, it's return of a familiar face to Spurs, Gareth Bale, back in the Premier League.
Yes.
So that'll be entertaining. Is he past it? Can he still do it? Is he good enough still? I think he is, but some people are doubting because he's a bit old, he's a bit rusty, because he's not played that much for Real Madrid. He's been on the bench, he's been playing golf. I really like, playing golf a lot. I like Son. Obviously, Harry Kane speaks volumes.
Son is an excellent player. Really exciting player to watch.
I like watching Son. He's always entertaining. Unfortunately, he was very good against your team last time, Man United.
He was,
but no, I like watching Spurs. Mourinho, he has something to prove as well. It's been a few years now since he's won a title. It's been a few years since he's been an elite manager, I'd say. He had struggled at Man United, really won a few competitions like the League Cup and things like that. But he really needs to sort of stamp his authority back on the Premier League and prove that he's still up there as one of the greatest managers.
Did you watch the Netflix series and Mourinho in his office talking to the players, which I found really amazing? I mean, this is going really inside the clubs.
It was, and you can see how he deals with the players, and he's like a switch. Sometimes he can be really positive and calm, and next time he can be really loud and vocal, and he can be quite aggressive sometimes. But we saw how he dealt with Danny Rose. That was very interesting.
I was going to say about that, because he was really upset and said, "Okay, I'll speak to Levy." So but okay. We had recently some other series like the Guardiola one, the Last Dance, Jordan.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
But it was 20 years ago. But now, just to watch this series at the manager's office, talking with the players, how they react. I think there was another one with Dele Alli. He says that, okay, you had started really well as a player. Now you have some off seasons. You have to shape up. This is really strange because it's like, watching somebody's bedroom, basically.
Well, that's what they were hoping. They were hoping a culture change because they had Pochettino for so long, didn't they? And we saw the reaction of the players on the documentary when Mourinho walked in. They were like, "Oh, Mourinho! Weren't expecting Mourinho." They need to be thinking like they're an elite club because Tottenham are what they call in England, but they're the also-rans. They're the nearlies. They nearly won the league. They nearly win the cup, but they need to be the ones. They nearly won the Champions League, didn't they? They lost to Liverpool in the final a couple of years ago. They need to be winning titles now. Harry Kane, does he want to stay there the whole of his career? He might never win a title. He might never win anything. He might be a bit like Alan Shearer at Newcastle, where he stayed loyal to his club, and once he joined the club, like Alan Shearer, and he didn't win anything, but he enjoyed playing for the club.
Alan Shearer won the Premier League with Blackburn.
No, but I mean when he went to Newcastle, yeah, it's okay for Alan Shearer because he won it at Blackburn before he went. But Harry Kane might never win a Premier League.
Yeah, but it was like the Dutch player went to United from Arsenal. The
Robin van Persie.
Robin van Persie.
Yeah.
He wanted to join United to win the Premier League. So yes,
and he achieved it.
Yeah. Okay. It's so. Sometimes when you listen to people say, "Oh, it's all about the money. They don't care, the players," it doesn't work like that, in my opinion. If you're a professional athlete, and I'm sure you want to win trophies at the end of the day, because when you retire, what are you going to say to your children and your grandchildren? I was playing for this club, this top club, but I never won anything.
Well, yeah, actually, if you think about it, Gareth Bale left Spurs. He went to Real Madrid. He won La Liga. He won Champions League, multiple Champions League titles. He even scored that brilliant goal in the final, 2 goals in the final to beat Liverpool. That's the difference. He's gone now. He's come back again. But he went to win titles. He won titles. And when he retires, he will be talking to people like Harry Kane, and they will put all their medals on the table. And how many medals will he have compared to Harry Kane? Potentially, Harry Kane will never win a title unless he leaves, or unless Mourinho can turn them back into an elite club.
Okay, so another interesting project, in my opinion, and go to Chelsea. Chelsea with Lampard, and made a lot of transfers this summer. Actually, probably they spend the most in the Premier League as far as transfers are concerned.
Very impressive signings, isn't it? They got Timo Werner, the German striker. They got Kai Havertz. They sort of raided the Bundesliga to sign players. They did well, and they signed Mendy, the goalkeeper, because they're a little bit like Manchester United. They've got a club legend as the manager. They've got doubts over the goalkeeper's confidence. Kepa hasn't been the best, so he hasn't
been consistent.
Hasn't been consistent. No, he hasn't been. I mean, it's the 2 Spanish goalkeepers. It's Kepa and David De Gea, both struggling with confidence. They've not been at the levels that they've shown in the past. Remember how much Kepa signed. He was one of the most, if not the most expensive goalkeeper in history, how much they signed him from Bilbao. So I think they're an interesting project. It's still early days. Again, look, they've lost
all
the game.
These players, of course, they need time to blend and start playing as a team. So I don't expect at the early part of the season Chelsea to be at the consistency level that they themselves expect the team to be. So again, we'll have to wait and see. And another interesting project, Leeds United, because the history of their manager is unbelievable, Bielsa, and everybody. It looks like there was a big talk during the summer how Leeds will play in the Premier League.
And they played really well, I think.
I think everybody expected them to get promoted from the championship.
Well, they were in another documentary, weren't they? They were in their own, I think it was Amazon Prime documentary, a little bit like the ones we've seen with Man City and Spurs. You could watch all about Leeds when they were in the Championship, behind the scenes. Bielsa, top manager, top manager, has been around the world. Pep Guardiola said Bielsa is his hero, his idol, his mentor. So when people like that are saying such good things, he's really taken to the club. The fans love him. I mean, you just got to look at the start they've made. Look at where they are.
It's a big club.
They are a big club.
They're a huge club.
But they've not got big name players, but they have done well at the start of the season. They're playing a good philosophy, good style of football.
It's the system, the tactical, the tactics they use. But what is really strange is that Bielsa doesn't speak a word of English. So you're just wondering how he communicates. Of course, I know he has assistants, but it's not the same. If you want to get the message across during the matches, is really amazing. Of course, it looks like a lot of work is done in the training ground. So that's why they have the shape they have, the tactics they use, and okay, this is again another interesting project. We spoke about Newcastle, West Ham, Southampton, and Man City in the 14th position.
I mean, they're a bit like Man United. They've only played 3 games.
I need to keep this photo.
Or maybe, but if you look at the table, Man City are still above Man United, so it's not too good. But they've not had the best of starts. They drew with Leeds.
Are you going to keep rubbing it in?
I'm sorry. I will keep the table.
You will not be invited back.
Well, look at Newcastle in 9th. I would take that at the end of the season. I'd take 9th. I mean, it's not the best, is it? But top half has got to be good. Look, it's early, isn't it? I mean, but you just got to look at the goals.
Of course, he's not. Just showed the table. The standings.
Yeah.
Just to go through the teams. Of course, it's early days. And you cannot make any conclusions at all. I just want to, this week, we had this big discussion in England about Project Big Picture. It looks like there's like a civil war in England. So
right, yeah.
They stopped talking about COVID. And
yes.
They talk about the last few days about this project Big Picture. It looks like it was brought forward by Man United and Liverpool. It was rejected by the other teams, but because you know how things work, I think what they gained, these two big clubs, is that there would be a discussion in relation to Premier League and revamping of the Premier League. The small clubs, they accuse the big clubs that they take a lot of money out of the game. There are 92 clubs, as we know, in England, in all divisions. And there's always been like this for as far as I remember. And it's a big part of the community. It's not just the big clubs. What is amazing, and we don't have this in Cyprus, especially in such a big scale, is that you can go to a lower division football match and the ground is packed. Here they support the big clubs, and then the small clubs, they just sell 300 tickets, even in the first division.
That's right. Well, I think this has all came about because they were struggling before coronavirus, but since coronavirus, it's sort of exacerbated the problem. It's made things worse. There's clubs who are on the brink. There's chairmen and CEOs of smaller clubs from the 3 lower divisions saying, "Look, we've got a few months left, and we will go bust. We won't exist anymore."
The championship.
Even championship teams, but even championship and below, but even some championship clubs are struggling because they've not got any fans. They've got big stadiums, but they've not got Premier League income.
Think they decided yesterday for League 1 and League 2, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, so they negotiated
to get
a deal.
some funds.
Yes,
but I think there's still big problem in the Championship.
Yeah, so the sums, the figures for League 1 and 2, they were going to get £27.2 million anyway in a solidarity payment, which is what they get normally from the Premier League. But because of this, following this plan that's been rejected, the Premier League clubs have agreed to give a further £50 million spread between those two leagues, Leagues 1 and League 2. So there'll be £77 million going to the clubs in the split between the clubs in those two divisions to try and help them get through, pay the bills, pay the players. You got to remember, it's not like
the electricity.
You got to remember the electricity, but you got to remember some of the clubs in even League 1 pay more than some of the players in Cyprus First Division, even in League 1, Third Division. They pay quite a lot of money per week, some of these clubs. You've got Sunderland in League 1, you've got Portsmouth, you've got massive clubs in League 1. That's a third division down, third tier down, 2 below the Premier League. And they're not going to be able to survive without this money. It is really crazy, but they're not.
But on the other hand, somebody can say, okay, Sunderland, they are down there because of their mismanagement.
And they're another club that were in a documentary. If anybody wants to check it out, that's on Netflix as well. That's a very interesting documentary.
There's another one, yes.
But we've got to look at the plans, because the original plans, that it was Liverpool backed by Man United, what they said. So they said, we want to reduce the league from 20 to 18.
Yeah.
So take 2 away. They were going to give
scrap the League Cup,
the Community Shield. Goodbye, gone. And they were going to give a bigger chunk of. It was quite a big chunk of the money from the TV revenues they were going to give to the other leagues. So the other 72 clubs, Championship, League 1 and League 2, they were going to give 25% of the income. And previously, before that, or as it stands, there's only 8% of all the funds from the TV deal for the Premier League goes to those divisions. So they were going to go from 8% to 50%. But the problem was, the reason why there's so many clubs in the Premier League, or all the clubs have now come together and said they disagree, but obviously the other 18 teams said...
Not just 18 teams, Jack, is that 2 of the teams, instead of having 92 clubs, we're going to have 90 clubs as well. So,
yes.
So it's a big thing.
It's a shrinking of the whole tier system.
Exactly.
And that was also a problem for the teams at the bottom. But the problem was, I think a lot of the clubs, so the EFL clubs, okay, all the chairmen, most of the chairmen of the clubs in the Championship, League 1, League 2, they were a big thumbs up. They were happy with that plan. They need the money, and they were saying maybe it's not ideal because looking further ahead, the big 6 clubs are going to move. They're going to have, or actually the big 9 clubs if they add them all up, but the big 6 plus the 3. They're going to move further ahead. They're going to have more of a say. It's good for us because we get immediate cash. We need immediate cash.
Even the big 9 clubs. There was a big discussion. There was a big 6 plus 3, and they were carrying them along just to get this plan, in force. But it's really. I don't know what's going to happen, because there will be a long discussion in England how they will revamp the Premier League, and not just the Premier League, the whole English football. But it looked like, even though I'm a Man United supporter, it looked like this plan was going to widen the gap between the big 6 clubs and the rest of the clubs in the Premier League.
Yeah, because what some analysts have been saying, and some fans have been saying on social media, and experts as well, they've all been having their say on it. What it means, it could mean, if it's obviously been rejected, but if it was to come into force, you've got 6 of the big 6, the ones we all know about, plus those 3. So they decided it was Everton, West Ham and Southampton based on how many years they've been in the Premier League. That's what they figured out. Those 9 clubs will effectively have rights to decide the calendar for when the games are played, where the TV money is going to go, and what games are going to be shown on TV. And the other 11, it would be
not just
the
that,
other 9 clubs wouldn't be able to have that.
They were going to have the power to reject a new owner, like in Newcastle's case.
Yeah,
they were going to have the power to reject the new owner buying Newcastle, for instance. So that's, it's a free world. How can 6 clubs decide that we don't like this owner and he's not going to come in the Premier League?
Yeah, because you've got teams, say, like Southampton as well, and the other one they decided, so West Ham and Everton, they might be thinking, I don't want Newcastle to get a big owner because they might threaten our chances of being in the top half of the table. There's a conflict of interest there.
That's why I said it looks like this plan was going to widen the gap between the big 6 clubs and the rest of the clubs.
And there is already a gap at the moment, so just to make it worse would be terrible, I think.
Yes, of course, because if you look at the earnings and what they get from the TV rights, these clubs compared to the smaller clubs in the Premier League, is a really big difference. Okay, I know when you are promoted from the Championship, you get roughly about £100 million an additional income, but still, if you look at these big clubs, they buy one player for £100 million. So but this is something that we have in the European stage as well. If you look at the Champions League, the big clubs are protected because of the big sponsors. They need the big clubs in the final. We don't have a lot of upsets. In the Premier League, it was really amazing when recently Leicester City won the Premier League. It was like when Blackburn won the league back in the 90s. We always like an upset, and that also in the FA Cup, which doesn't have the prestige that they used to have, back in the day. Again, always like a big upset. And, as fans, I know we support our clubs, some of us bigger clubs than others. But if this element is taken out of football, right, it's not going to make it that much exciting.
Well, we already know how difficult it is for anybody else, apart from the big 6, to get into the top 4, into the Champions League. Leicester City obviously got into the Champions League because they won the league. But apart from Leicester City, the last team, can you even remember the last team to be in the Champions League that wasn't Arsenal, Spurs, Man City, Man United, Liverpool, or Chelsea?
Yeah.
There's not been another team apart from Leicester, and it's been not since maybe Newcastle in the early 2000s has there been, and Leeds as well back then when they were back in the Premier League before. It's not been any variation, any variety, and some other leagues have had that variety, but we've not had that because the gap is so massive between the big clubs and even the mid-table clubs is the big gap.
I started following, English football back in the 70s, and you can guess my age now. And the reason why is we always had these upsets. We kept saying, Aston Villa, Liverpool, strange result. This really strange, but in reality, this is the Premier League. This is why a lot of people outside of the UK like the Premier League more than the Serie A or even La Liga, because you know that a big club can play away a much smaller club and then be thrashed 4-0, 5-0. So this is really what excites, personally, this is what excites me. And that's why I follow the English football.
Yeah, I think personally for the product, for the prestige of the competition, it's always great to have the best players playing for the best teams, and we've had some really good players come over in the summer to join the Premier League. Chelsea's a good example of good players coming in. We want to see the upsets. Hey, it's a real British thing, and I'm sure it is over in Cyprus. We do like the underdog. We back the underdog. We loved it when Leicester won the league. We like it when teams go far in the FA Cup or even in the Europa League.
In Cyprus, you don't like the underdog.
They don't in Cyprus. Okay,
well, really.
Well,
really.
So people tuning in from Cyprus probably don't mind the top teams. But as a British person, as an English person, we like the upsets. We love the cup upsets. The FA Cup was famous for the upsets over the years, and it still is. for that reason. But we want to see that. We want to see the Evertons up there. We want to see the Villas and the Newcastles and the Leicesters challenging. Because what's the point in having the same teams every year? Liverpool, Man City. Before that, Man United won most of the Premier Leagues. We want a bit of variation, and hopefully, with the COVID, maybe with no fans at all this season, we might have an upset.
Let's hope so. And just to cap it up, this plan, in my opinion, was put on the table because of COVID-19 and the reduction in the revenues of the big clubs and the uncertainty. But there's a big uncertainty of what's going to happen if the fans don't manage to go back to they lose a lot of money through the gates, and if, God forbid, they have to stop playing in the Premier League, it means that there will be a big discussion for the TV rights. So you can imagine how hard, especially the big clubs, but all the clubs would be hit by that.
Yes, I think it's interesting to come in the years to come. Coronavirus possibly has changed football. It's been the kick that it needed because Sky and BT have got and some games on Amazon Prime in the UK, that is, the rights. There might now be a shift in the next TV deal when it needs to be renewed again after the 3 years, towards individual matches where fans can subscribe, a bit like a Netflix series. You can subscribe to Man United games, subscribe to Man City.
On demand.
On demand,
yeah.
And that is probably going to be the new system because they figured out, I've heard and read elsewhere that people have figured out these clubs can make more money individually by selling the packages to their own games in discussions with the Premier League. So it might change the structure, it might change the setup, and it'll be interesting to see with this on-demand environment whether football, they've teased it in with Amazon. They do that in the UK where you can just watch all the games at the same time if you wanted to, and they've teased it with the Champions League games on BT as well, whether you can watch multiple games at the same time or individual games. So it'll be interesting to see what the landscape looks like in 10 years' time. We might not be watching on TV as much. It might be all on demand online. When I say on demand, I mean live, but you can watch it back as well. And even the 3 o'clock kickoffs might still be on demand as well. So, because previously there's been rules where you can't show the 3 o'clock on a Saturday on the TV, as you might know, on live TV. So we'll see what happens. And coronavirus has changed a lot of our lives. A lot of people's lives were bad, but for football, it might have changed the landscape where they're going to have to be better with their money. They're going to have to renegotiate the TV deals because it's a lot of lost income now from no fans coming in, and they will appreciate the fact that the product isn't as good without the fans in the stadium.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, just to finish off with this weekend's matches. We have Leicester City, Aston Villa, West Brom, Burnley, Leeds United, Wolves, Newcastle United, we spoke about. Sheffield United, Fulham, Crystal Palace, Brighton, Tottenham, West Ham, another local derby. Everton, Liverpool, Chelsea, Southampton, and Manchester City, Arsenal. Ooh.
Another good game. There's lots of good, exciting games to be had this weekend. So I'm looking forward to all of them, to be honest. There's not a bad game on there at all.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be another exciting weekend.
Definitely.
And Jack, you want to just have the last word?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Nikos. It's been a pleasure. It's been nice talking about all the different things with the Premier League, and I'm just excited to see what's going to happen now, and whether all the issues we've talked about with Man United and Newcastle, whether they get ironed out, and whether they sort of get some form back and push on. Because, like we said, it's early days. We don't want to get too over the top. Things might change, and no one can predict what's going to happen now, as we saw with the results last time out. So really excited to see what's going to happen this weekend.
Thank you very much, Jack.
Thank you.